Shelley, so I just finished my story. I know that was pretty heavy, pretty deep stuff, but at the same time, when we talk about things like that, again, it's for education, right? It's to show people red flags, it's to help people with behavior, not only the person going through the trauma, but the person or the people in their life. To help them get through that trauma. So just identifiable things, that we go through every day, and red flags and good things too. So jealousy, I spelt it wrong. I spelt it jealousy, or however it was, or jealousy.
It is, I mean, it can be lousy.
Yeah, it can be lousy. I did that on purpose, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's talk about jealousy. You're going to have to go first on this one, because I talked so much for the last, 30, 45 minutes.
Probably need a little rest.
I need a little rest, yeah. So you go ahead. Let's talk about that.
Well, we talked about it last week, and I found it interesting that, you went right to truth with it. That it's based on truth, which it is definitely based on truth within yourself, I would say, some of it. I think it's rooted in fear. So the person who's feeling jealous, it's rooted in fear, and they have fear of something, fear of what it's going to expose, fear of losing what they think they have, which you don't actually, maybe they think that the person is their person. That's not actually your person. You're your person, right? And also, I think it's based in a low self-worth, because if you have a feeling that someone is going to leave you, cheat on you, because that's what jealousy is usually wrapped around, it's you feeling like you're not enough.
Have you been jealous before?
I have been. I absolutely have been.
In every relationship, or are you a jealous person, or?
No.
No?
Not in every relationship. In a toxic relationship that I was in.
Why in a toxic relationship? Like, what's missing that makes you jealous?
What made me jealous was, I guess, behavior as it played out that made me super uncomfortable. And even though I talked about things that happened and I asked questions, I felt like I wasn't getting the truth. So the truth...
Because you probably weren't.
I wasn't. And then the truth made me create a story. And then my response to the story was jealousy.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's where, gaslighting comes in.
But I also felt not secure in myself, and had probably just a lower self-worth at the time. And so all that wrapped together was a perfect storm.
Okay. Jealousy for me, it is about truth, right? Like, if you have a good relationship and you can communicate, then there really isn't jealousy. Like, I've had relationships with a ton of it, and with really none, and I think it is. It's, I don't know. I just told my story, and I didn't even know what my truth was, right? Like with the fire service and all that kind of stuff. But there still wasn't jealousy, because we were at least truthful in the moment of that time. We were truthful, right?
Right.
And I think at least if you have that helps huge. But so, we never are going to script any of this stuff or whatever, but on the way, we talked a little bit, about doing this, and I just looked it up online, what it is.
Of course you did.
I just had to check it out, So, and it says that, if you identify it, this was on Psychology Today, that if you identify the jealousy, that helps huge.
It does.
Because then you could ask yourself why. I was jealous. There was jealousy on both sides. In your toxic relationship, was he jealous too? And so it's almost contagious, huh?
Yes.
And you're going back and forth, and then when you're jealous, then I'm jealous, or you know what I'm saying? In my experience, it was something I can't remember what I did. I was on Facebook and I said hi to this girl, and the girl was friends with the girl I was with, and she flipped. What are you doing saying hello? I was like, dude, I just said hello. We all went to high school together. We're the fuck,
Sure.
But that's not about me. That's about. You know what I'm saying? That's about the situation, the relationship, and that's the time, another red flag when you're like, okay, what's going on? Sure. Why are we jealous?
Sure.
What's up with that?
Yeah.
And it still comes down to that. It still comes down to that choice and that compassion, right? Communicate with love. I think you took one of my quotes the other day and you put it up or whatever, and that communication with love is huge. But then there's healthy jealousy too. Isn't there?
Help me out.
I don't know, if you're jealous of somebody, that means you give a shit, at least, doesn't it? No?
No, there's healthy ways to show you give a shit, but
Jealousy's not one of them.
Jealousy is that there's something going on inside or something about the story that you're not talking about.
Or it's another thing that I read is that it could be that you know the relationship is failing and you're trying to hang on like with every last bit, and that's like kind of like your
It's fear.
yeah, it's like your automatic like, oh shit, this is not working.
Yes.
Yeah, we're effed.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And as you were saying something there, it made me think, is there a separation between jealousy and feeling threatened?
I don't even know what that means. You're gonna have to explain that.
So I know that sometimes when you said, have you ever been jealous?
Right.
I'm going to say yes. But there were also times where I just felt threatened.
By what?
A situation that then
Oh, I see what you're saying.
that then made me
Right.
play out jealousy.
Right.
But it was actually the situation where it was just, I felt threatened. I felt uncomfortable. I felt threatened. I didn't address it. And then by hanging on to that, again, unfinished, unspoken, whatever it was, not being truthful, then it just festered and became something that then made me behave and act out jealousy, which organically isn't who I am.
But if you address it, so say, like I've been in relationships where like you're out at a bar or whatever, and somebody comes up and they're attractive or whatever, and they're like hanging out and talking or whatever, and you might say, hey man, this makes me a little bit uncomfortable. Not jealous, but it makes me like a little bit uncomfortable. Like it seems like you're super engaged with this person over here when we're supposed to be together. You know what I mean? But not like talking, but
Sure.
overly. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes you just get enthralled in the conversation. You say, hey, I'm getting a little bit uncomfortable. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. Like I didn't intend to do that.
But that's
I
a
just- I got,
healthy
this-
relationship.
Right, that's a healthy relationship. Right. But sometimes that's kind of jealousy where that's a healthy thing, right? Like, hey, I feel a little bit threatened right now or whatever. Like that's a good time to say that, right? Be like, hey,
Yeah, but threatened is different. Versus, I think the way jealous plays out is there's like an act or there's something that happens or there's like, it stays unidentified. I don't know.
or here there's jealousy for a reason too.
Yes.
Jealousy isn't just like a feeling. Like there's sometimes a reason for it. Like if somebody cheats, then you'd be jealous of who they cheated with, right? Because they spent time physically with somebody else.
Sure.
And speaking of, like, I would be more jealous of a relationship versus like sex. Like I would so here's an example. This is messed up. I'm just gonna use an example for jealousy, right? Like since we brought up infidelity or whatever.
Sure.
So if just say I was married again and my spouse cheated.
You would have to date first.
Oh yeah, right, yeah. So anyway, so I'm married. My spouse cheats, and the cheating is like that's a whole other subject. But if she just like went out with her buddies and they got really super drunk and she ended up hooking up with some guy, that's one thing, right? That would still suck. It still hurts. It's a bummer. Still got to deal with it, fix it, figure out why 3 times.
Okay.
Versus she's been talking to somebody for 6 months and sharing intimate details and blah, blah, blah. That's more hurtful to me than this 10-minute actor.
So there's shades of jealousy?
No, there's not shades, but I think like it would be like, maybe there is shades of jealousy. Like that would be a much deeper hurt for me.
Or
than
do
it
you
would-
have shades of acceptance?
I don't know. Neither one's acceptable. Like neither one would totally suck.
Because what you just said, we talked about this yesterday, I think, or whenever, 400 times we talked this week, was with she goes out, she's with her friends, she's drunk, she whatever. So you just justified her behavior.
No. Well, yeah, I did actually, which isn't justified.
No. So that's shades of acceptability,
Oh, that's like a coping mechanism.
coping.
Yeah, got it. Shit.
Damn.
Yeah, see, every fucking time we do this, you do that. You like point out the total obvious that I didn't even get, right?
Well,
like
I mean-
that's so good. That's perfect what you just said. Like she cheated.
Right.
Or he cheated.
Right.
Or yeah, that's like such a better way to say it, huh? Instead of like sugarcoating it.
It's like you can't be sort of pregnant. Cheating is cheating.
Right. Okay. That's a good one. Define cheating. Like what is cheating?
Cheating, I think, in my mind, can be it's crossing the boundary of what your partnership is and means physically, emotionally, and just breaking the connection with someone else, like bringing someone else in to your space without your partner knowing. Physical, emotional.
Like if say you bring like a person in, Like, say you're in a relationship.
I'm saying, like, you have sex with someone, you have an emotional relationship with someone, someone you're sharing details that you're not telling your partner. Your partner's your person.
Right.
If you,
It's supposed to
if
be.
you, if you, it's supposed to be.
It's supposed to be.
And if you go past that line, then that's cheating.
And then that brings jealousy.
It can't. Yeah, it can bring jealousy
so
if
here's-
if they don't know and if they find out, or if they suspect behavior, and if they see you, you
Like texting,
do
you don't share
different
texts
things. Yeah,
and-
exactly.
Yeah,
or
you're
or
being-
normally
Or you have
share
friends
your
that you
phone
never
back and
know.
forth, and all of a sudden you
Yeah,
pick up their phone and
yeah.
they freak out, like
Yeah,
those kinds of things.
Totally. Okay, that makes sense. I was gonna say something about that somebody told me once, like, infidelity is doing something that you couldn't do in front of your partner.
Okay.
That's a kind of a good thing, right? And then that's also like about honesty and all that kind of stuff. But if that's where the jealousy stems from, is some of that stuff, right? Like if, oh, I heard you were out the other night and you were hanging out with like a bunch of girls and blah, blah, blah. Like that would create jealousy, because if you didn't tell them about it, then they'd be like, well, why didn't they tell me? Then they start making up that story, and then you start like building that toxic whatever.
Sure.
Instead of just being transparent, right?
Right.
But sometimes you can't be transparent because you don't have a healthy relationship. And if you do, then it blows everything up. Then it turns into like a big fight, right? I've been in those relationships too.
Yeah, so have I. But
And then that's the time when you're like, okay, this either needs to end or we fix it or whatever.
right.
So we're back to that, like
Yeah, it's-
identifying your BS
Well,
and working it out.
It starts with the transparency from the beginning,
Sure it does.
because then you don't get to that place.
Yeah,
I mean, you would hope you wouldn't. Of course, things happen.
right.
Things change. Feelings change. I mean, that's a real thing.
Yeah, well, it for sure is, right? Like,
Right.
but as you go through a relationship, you're still choosing every day. I keep saying that all
Sure.
the time, right?
Sure.
And then, if I had the tools that I have now, I would ask why.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could sit down and have a conversation with somebody and be like, okay, like we're both jealous. Well, why? Why would we be jealous? Are we not committed? Are we not communicating well? Are we disconnected? Is something else going on with work or whatever? And then if you address it, like when I told my story, if I would have addressed some of the things in my relationship and actually like focused on them and worked it out, then the 50 other things that happened after that would have never happened, right? And I think jealousy is an indicator of something definitely wrong.
I think there's a lot of the lack of self-confidence on both sides, though, because oftentimes the person who's acting out, say someone comes home and they tell a bunch of stories about, oh, this girl thought I was hot, and then I went here, and then this chick was talking to me, and they tell stories like that constantly. That's because they don't have that sense of confidence and self-worth. So they're telling these stories so that they can get a reaction, but they're also telling the stories so they can hear themselves tell the stories, they can build themselves up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but do you really think it's like that all the time? Like if
I've experienced it.
I've had healthy relationships where I'd like come home and it was funny.
No,
You know what I mean?
I'm talking about a constant theme kind of.
Oh,
thing.
I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've done that before. Like I told that story. I wasn't in a relationship when it happened, but that story about the girl telling me that I smelled good in the parking lot, and I was like, "What the fuck?" But I would say that.
But
that's funny.
That's different.
Yeah.
That's different.
Or sometimes I have to say it feels good to get those accolades, right? If somebody's
Right.
like, "Hey, man,"
Right.
That's cool.
Right.
It's funny to me, and I think it would be like a compliment. Like if I'm with a gal, a woman, sorry, not a gal. That was weird, huh?
No,
That was
I
we're
use-
riding horses in the
I
old
use
Wild
that
Wild West.
stuff. Chick, gal,
Yeah, I know.
whatever.
Disrespectful. But if I'm with a woman and she gets like, "Oh, you're attractive" or whatever, that's a compliment. You know what I'm saying? It's how you accept that compliment is what creates maybe the emotion after that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Oh, thank you very much. Meet my boyfriend, whatever. The other thing that's interesting too is when it's how you carry yourself, and if you're with somebody, then man, it's funny that you remember the story I told you. I was with a girl. We were walking.
Yes.
And this other girl walks out of the bar.
Yes.
And this girl, I had like 1 date or 2 days, whatever, nothing big, but still, I was with her. And this other girl walks out of the bar, and I was like, oh my God. And it was like total attraction. And I thought she was very attractive, and we like locked eyes, and we like the hearts were going and stuff. But I couldn't. Couldn't do
Cupid's arrow?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
But I couldn't do anything because I was with
You were
her.
with somebody, yeah.
Right. Which brings me to, like, if I would have reacted, that would create jealousy because it's disrespect too.
Right.
Like when you're disrespectful to people, that's also
Yeah, and you made a choice in the moment.
right. I made the right choice
Sure.
because now I'm like healed. You know what I mean? But and I would have done that anyways, right? I wouldn't be a total butthead. Yeah. Dick is a good, yeah. But then, that made me start thinking about this jealousy thing and like that. And that just kind of goes to show, the way you carry yourself. Like if I was to even think that, oh my God, that girl's so beautiful, then I shouldn't be with this girl. You know what I mean? Because if like I know you think other people are attractive, but I connected with her. So clearly I'm not connected with this person. So there's something up with that. You know what I mean? You got to be real with that. And so that's now going to be a friendship, right? Because I was like all into that. And I shouldn't have been.
Well, it just brought up something that you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to pay attention.
Yeah, like I'm totally paying attention now, right? And we talked about only dating, whether it's one date or 2 dates or whatever. You date one person at a time, and then you decide before you move. And that's an interesting thing too, because like with this list, you have a list too now. But with this list, it really defines like what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. But it also the intelligence piece and the emotional intelligence piece. And what was one of the ones on yours that was good? Healthy? Or
Externally focused.
externally focused. Like if you're
That's a
externally
big one.
That's huge.
If
right?
I'm externally focused, I'm not going to do anything
To
that's
hurt.
going to disturb my partner to make them be jealous.
Correct. That's the coolest thing.
Right?
Right? Yeah.
Because
And
I'm
you
so
always-
connected to the two of us having an understanding.
Yeah. And caring about how they
And
feel.
caring about how they
Like
feel.
considering their feelings.
Yeah,
So now we're really actually talking about how to eliminate jealousy.
right.
Is
Well,
being
that's healthy.
empathetic
Yeah.
and showing
Aware.
respect, being aware. I think about like sometimes you lead separate lives, right? Like you have like a group of friends over here that your spouse might not know, but you hang out with them a lot, or you do things with them, and then like they're not included or whatever. That creates jealousy too, because then you're like, what the hell is this about? But in a healthy relationship, that would never happen. But then we talk about like autonomy, which we're going to talk about here coming up. But autonomy, like you can still, if there's no jealousy and there's respect, then you can have that autonomy and it's cool. Like you're not wondering where the other person's
Well,
at.
because you
you're
have a
not questioning
foundation of
them.
trust. I mean, it's all wrapped in.
And I think it's based on how you start the relationship and how you maintain the relationship. I know it is. But it's how you maintain that relationship throughout,
Right.
right?
Right.
So really jealousy is another red flag. Like that's an indicator of a problem.
It's an
whether it's
indicator
with
of
you,
a problem. That's right.
them, or the relationship, right? And it needs to be addressed. Like you don't let that stuff stew.
Or some untruths, or
Right.
what is it that's making you feel that way? And then the other thing too is when you when something comes up and all of a sudden you realize partner's jealous, or I feel jealous, so let's have the conversation. And maybe it was a specific scenario, like you said. You're with some friends and somebody's jealous because they feel like someone was talking to someone too much or paying too much attention.
Right.
So then you talk about it. And then the next opportunity comes up. Oh, we're going to go to a dinner party. Oh, guess what? That couple's going to be there. Oh, I remember when we were there last time. So let's talk about that. What's going to make you more comfortable?
Absolutely, right? Like if you ask those questions, that's huge. Oh my God, that would like eliminate all of.
It would change it.
It would change everything. When you're telling me that, like all these things pop in my head. It's like all the time. So when you were saying that, I was thinking about a time when like the girl I was with had her phone out, and like all these texts were coming up, and it was like this group text, but there was just a number on one and not a name. Oh, who's this? Oh, that's this guy, and blah blah blah. I'm like, oh, what's his name? How come there's only 4 texts? Oh, my phone doesn't have enough storage, so I have to delete them. I think you were in a
I've heard
relationship.
that one.
I've heard that one, right? And you're like, this is total bullshit.
That's really weird.
Or
'Cause
hey,
your phone, you have a newer phone than me.
oh yeah, like it's totally, you know what I mean?
Sure.
But that's the whole time, and those little things like that create that. But again, if you address that situation in the relationship, then there's not going to be more situations. And the interesting thing is like, I know I keep going back to my story. That was like sort of kind of traumatic for me to talk through all that stuff. But
Sure.
it makes me realize that every time you don't address something, it just builds up to the next thing, whether it's subconsciously or consciously or whatever, right? And we talk about being present in the moment, and we talk about anger and not taking that event or that piece of anger to the next situation to where it would build up and then you'd overreact. It's the same thing with jealousy.
Well, it's the same thing. And in fact, that situation you just described, same thing, where you get the answer, oh, it's just nobody, it's whatever, my phone, this or that. So you take that and you lie to yourself because you don't want the confrontation.
Yeah, you don't
You
want-
don't want
yeah.
the truth.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Whatever the reason.
Right.
So you take that, you make that your new truth, which is bullshit truth.
Right.
You carry that forward, keep moving. It happens again, of course, in some other way, right? Or the same way. It's going to play out again. The same
Yeah.
phone thing, whatever.
Yeah.
So then it becomes bigger. You stuff it down again. It becomes bigger inside. You eventually there's like a big jealous explosion or something. Like something happens. Something significant
Which,
always happens.
So jealousy could also be used as like a manipulation
Yes,
tool, right?
absolutely.
This reminds me. This is part of my life story, but I didn't say it. I got super sick, like really sick. And I thought I had like colon cancer or whatever. So I'm like laying on the floor. I'm really sick. And the girl I'm with takes my phone and goes through my phone because I was super sick, and then takes some pictures of like a text or something I have with my nanny, and then sends it to her friends and says I'm cheating, and then breaks up with me and leaves. And I was like, fuck. That was like, right, like kind of a jealousy thing sort of type of deal, but also saying in so many different ways, because people tell you who they are. People tell you what they want all the time.
Constantly.
And that was to create a mistake. Jealousy could not create a mistake, but like create an out. So like they're like, fuck, I don't want to take the risk of this guy if he has cancer. Fuck that. Like I'm going to find anything I can find to get an excuse for me to get out of here. And then I'm going to tell my friends it's because he's a cheating piece of shit. Not that he's actually sick and I'm trying to get out of it, right? Like to save face.
Or that she already knew
That she wanted out anyway.
that she wanted out anyway.
Right.
Right.
And like, so people tell you what they want and who they are all the time.
All the time.
But sometimes you don't listen. Like sometimes, and that might be part of jealousy too, is like creating a problem so that they don't have to, you know what I'm saying? Like they want to create a fight so that can like snowball into something else. So it can be used as a manipulation tool too.
Well, it's the self-sabotage in a relationship. So
Yeah.
oftentimes the behavior is the self-sabotage because that's far easier than dealing with what's real. Not easier. It's the road more traveled, I would
Right.
say, versus the road less traveled.
Sure. I have this friend, really good friend of mine. He has an amazing marriage. He's been married since high school. And he's like, we don't have secrets. So therefore, I think there's jealousy sometimes because they don't have secrets, right? Because they tell each other everything. And he told me, he's like, hey, whatever you tell me, my wife might hear it. She's going to know. I'm like, okay. Right? Like, why wouldn't she? I don't have anything to hide anyways. So, but that was one of those things like that would help it, right? Because you know the whole story. You're never going to be the stooge in the room. You're never going to be, ill-informed or not informed or whatever that word would be.
Right.
So there's lots of ways to eliminate it too, and there's lots of ways to deal with it. And I think it's that foundation. I know it's the foundation of your relationship, that it's based on communication and honesty. And I know it gets messed up sometimes.
Oh, transparency.
right?
Of course, things come up, but
Yeah.
but then it starts with the honesty, transparency,
Right.
and then as things come up, it's how you handle the communication
Sure.
and not making things personal.
Right.
It has to be about the event or whatever the feeling is, but not making it personal and attacking someone.
Right. And so we talk about when there's trauma in your life, and that would affect how you would deal with a situation like that, right? Like if, say, somebody gets jealous or whatever, and then they like blow up like with an outburst or something like that, it's probably not about that. It's probably about something else. So that would be a red flag, and that's part of the purpose
Example
of the show.
would be if your inner child has some abandonment issues.
Like who? Me and you?
Both
Yeah.
of us.
Right.
So then when that happens in that moment, you have a fear of abandonment. It's a trigger.
True. That's true.
That's a jealousy.
And then that's when you would go into your child's mind versus your adult mind, and you'd handle it like
and you handle it. Yes.
right. And so regardless if there's jealousy, that's something that needs to be addressed. Like you need to figure that out. But then also being honest about it, right? Like being truthful about why you're jealous.
Right.
So truth comes back into it, communication comes into it, right? Transparency, all those things. So the foundation of the relationship needs to be good to be able to deal with those things. But then
Yeah.
also manage any kind of other stresses you have in your life, whether that's a traumatic event or PTSD or whatever, and then work on that. But I know we don't like the why 3 times.
Yeah,
but
we do.
We do now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I love it.
If you did that why 3 times for that, then you might boil that down. Actually, I know you'd boil that down to what's really going on, right? So
Sure.
Anyways,
Yeah.
you good on this one?
Fear. I'm real good on this one.
All right. That's jealousy. Appreciate you guys watching. Have a great day.